Me? You want me to do it? I can do it, homie. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So I went ahead and grabbed another game from the World Chess Armageddon Championship Series. That's like a super mouthful, bro. But I did get one of the Andrew Tang versus Wesley So games. This is the second game they played against each other. So let me pull up this bad boy right here. But man, all of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking magkaibigan. Masaya komi kini muli. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, as always. Ain't got loggy to you guys. Yeah, man, but if you guys are ready to go, you know, without any further ado, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move d4, we got d5, and then we have bishop to f4, the London system. You know, Eric Rosen somewhere in the world is very happy. You know, I think he has like a tingling sense when the London is played. He's like, oh, it's a London somewhere. At least that's what I got from the limited amount of time I spent watching his videos. Anyway, we do see the move c5. You know, which, as you guys know, anytime you play d4, c5, like, you have to be prepared against c5 at any point, whether it's Benoni or just at some point, you know, c5 comes to try to break your structure down, trading a wing pawn for a center pawn. So we do see the move e3, just reinforcing that pawn. We do see knight to c6, knight comes to f3, we got bishop to g4, knight b to d2, nothing to worry about. Pawn takes, we got the move e6, c3, f6, which might look kind of strange. It's not the absolute best move, but I mean, the thing you have to think about is it's a lot more dangerous to move your f pawn like to f6 or something if the queen can immediately come to this square, especially if you have like a bishop here and then you're kind of attacking this square right here. And I mean, it can be a lot of nasties and messing your king up. So that is not the case in this position. So we have a little bit of time. The queen comes over to b3. We see queen down to d7. We got bishop to e2. And I mean, you know, basically both sides are pretty much doing what they need to do. You know, white is actually a little bit further ahead, even though it doesn't show that white is like clearly winning the game. You know, white is definitely ahead as far as development, because black basically has like the entire king side that he has to kind of do something about. We do see the move g5 attacking immediately. And then we have bishop to g3. You literally only had two options unless you're going to leave the bishop there. So we do see the bishop coming back to f5, and then we see the novelty of the game, which it actually makes a lot of sense because, I mean, your knight isn't really doing a whole lot here on d2. Is actually knight to f1, you know, thinking about redirecting it up here to the e3 square, which is a little bit better placement, more central. We got the move h5, and you kind of got to do something, homie, because your bishop is finding it really hard to breathe. Right? I mean, you really don't have anywhere to go, so you got to kind of create some lift for your bishop. So we see the move h3. We got knight g to e7. We got bishop, or we got knight up to e3. Sorry. The movement that I was telling you guys about a second ago. The bishop drops back to g6. We got castles by white. And then we do see knight coming to f5, trying to disrupt this knight on the e3 square. But we see knight taking f5 and a bishop taking f5. And I mean, you know, white has a slight edge. You know, pretty much the reason for that is, you know, they're kind of already on this attack here on the king side. So you kind of would be thinking that they're going to be castling queen side. But at the moment, you know, white's king or black's king is kind of in the center of the board. It hasn't found a home yet. So, you know, it's a little bit more dangerous for black, especially if a rook can find its way on e1 and start to, you know, create some, you know, some problems in the center of the board. So we got to kind of do something about that. But white does play the move c4, and then we have knight to a5, and then we have queen going over to e3, which actually this is much better for black, simply because, I mean, you're just able to just capture a pawn, and you're kind of a pawn to the good. As you can see, black has a little bit of an advantage. So it is actually much better in this position to go queen to c3, because at least after you would see knight taking c4, bishop taking c4, and the pawn taking, you actually have the ability to push d5, and you're creating some threats in the middle of the board. Also, you are threatening to capture on f6. And like I said, once these rooks kind of start coming in the game, you know, this king being in the center of the board is a little bit suspect, homie, but we didn't see that. Like I said, we did see queen to e3, and black just says, give me the pawn. So he, you know, turning a Yasser Sarawan real quick. So bishop takes c4. We got pawn taking c4. We got the move d5. And Wesley So was like, bro, I don't believe you. And he shouldn't. because this is just another pawn. Queen takes d5, and Wesley So's like, hey, bro, I'm sitting pretty. Like, you know, I'm good to go. So we do see the move b3, trying to give up yet another pawn. But, you know, Wesley So just says, bro, I'm just going to go ahead. I have to remember that I do need to, you know, I do need to develop my pieces, get my king into safety. So what better way to do that than bishop to c5? But, you know, one of the really, really nice moves in the game is actually queen to d3. And under no circumstances is white going to actually do this. But if you did see queen taking d3, pawn taking d3, I mean, you know, you're kind of rolling these pawns down the board, homie. They're kind of monstrous. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. But like I said, we did see bishop to c5, which, I mean, anytime you can gain the tempo on the enemy queen or the king or, you know, a rook or something like that with the bishop, you know, it's definitely something you should consider. So we do see queen going over to c3 now. So, you know, at this point in the game, you know, now we kind of have that queen c3 idea that I was telling you guys a second ago. We got castles by black. What better way to protect the pawn than castling? We do see rook a to d1. Queen goes up to c6. Queen takes c4. We got the move b5. And, I mean, we're in a position that you actually kind of have to be a little bit careful what move you make. We do see queen down to e2, which isn't the absolute best move. Best move, queen to c1. But absolutely under no circumstances do you go back to c3. Because, bye-yow. Bishop takes f2 a check. Bye-bye, queen. I never liked my queen anyway. Eric Rosen's crying somewhere again. But we did see queen to e2. We got rook a to d8. Rook f goes to e1. We got rook taking d1, rook taking d1. We got the move e5. Queen goes to d2. You know, we're trying to take over some files, homie. Bishop goes back to e7. We got the move h4. Trying to create something on the king side. I mean, you know, this king is just slightly open over here. You know, kind of with all this air going on over here. So, I mean, if we could try to start to open things up, we can kind of get something rolling. We see the move of rook over to d8, trying to smash all of those plans. And we have actually reached the point in the game. There is a top move in this position. It's something that Wesley So might have overlooked. That Andrew Tang actually finds in the position. If you want to pause the video and see what move Andrew Tang comes up with, go ahead and do so. Okay, so it's actually not that serious. You know, Wesley So doesn't overlook anything. This is like a completely dominant position for black. But it's kind of like a cute little idea. And Andrew Tang just says, you know, I'm all in. Eric Rosen happy again. Oh no, my queen. Queen takes d8 check. Sacrificing the queen, getting an extra piece. The only thing is, you know, black is just in time to make sure that white doesn't really have full advantage of this move. We do see king going down to f7, pawn taking g5, and we're really hoping and dreaming that Wesley So just says, bro, like, I never wanted to win the game anyway, and does something like this. And then knight takes e5 is forking these two pieces, but Wesley So does not do that because it says, bro, what do you think, I suck? Bishop goes to e4. I'm going to just get rid of your knight. Like, you know, forget your knight. So we do see pawn taking f6, bishop taking f3, pawn taking f3, king taking f6, and then we have a rook over to h8. You know, if you are white, you have to try to get some material, make some threats. You know, right now, not only are we threatening this pawn, but we're threatening this check, which would pick up this queen. So Wesley So just says, bro, like, I don't suck again. And he goes over king to g6. We got king up to g2, trying to protect this f3 pawn. We got pawn going to e4, pawn takes f4, queen takes e4 check, but we are able to sidestep that with king to h2. Queen goes down to c2, so it's kind of like maybe, you know, a2 is an issue. Rook goes over to b8. You know, like I said, I mean, you have to try to drum something up. You know, you just sacrificed a bunch of material. You got to try to get something back. But, I mean, Wesley So just crushes all of his dreams by going a6. And it's like, I don't want you to get any of my material, homie. Like, I want to keep my material with me. I'm black. Those are my pieces. I'm good. So the rook does come down to b6 with check. We got king down to g5, king down to g1. And we have a really nice move. And that is h4. And you're really not giving the bishop a whole lot of options, man. You know, you kind of want to keep, the bishop tied to a pawn, and you want to keep the rook where it can be protected by this bishop, the best thing you can do if you've given up some material, you know, you've given up an exchange, or you've given up like your queen or something, is to play as like, you know, what is the word that I'm looking for? You know, coordinated. That's what I mean. I'm really spacing. You want to try to be as coordinated with your pieces as possible. So to keep everything kind of protecting everything, and that's kind of your hope to win. But we do see bishop back to e5. We got queen down to b1 with check. The king goes over to h2. We got queen to f5. And now you have a problem here because the queen is now forking this bishop and this pawn. And after this pawn is picked up with a check, that would be picking up the rook. So you kind of have to leave the bishop there. So the bishop does go back to d6. And like I said, queen takes f2 with check. And we are checking this king. And we are picking up this rook. And that is completely lights out. So it is in this position that Andrew Tang resigns the game. So that is that game. It was pretty interesting. I mean, it was actually one of the top moves. It was like the top 3 or 4 move to actually sacrifice the queen on d8. But I'm really honestly not sure what, you know, you were kind of supposed to do to kind of hold the position. You know, it's pretty risky when you go into those types of situations. So maybe in bullet games you can hook that up. But anyways, that is that game. You know, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Maraming salamat king makaibigan po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. And I'll see you guys next time.